Florida's first execution of the year will be closely watched by a Marcellus family. They'll be in a viewing room at Florida State Prison to witness the death of the man who killed their brother, Michael Sheridan. Sheridan was living in Atlanta at the time. He was in Gainesville for business when he was targeted, robbed, killed 37 years ago. Here's my extended interview with Nancy and Thomas Sheridan. Your brother's killer is scheduled for lethal injection in the first case this year for the state of Florida. I would think that both of you think there's no better candidate than Ronald Heath.
True. Absolutely true.
Yeah, 100%. Ronald Heath was a serial killer. And that was the thing that I pushed for very hard with the governor's office, with the attorney general's office, with the Florida Department of Corrections, with the Florida Commission of Offender Review, was to point out that this man killed 3 people.
That we know of.
Two of which were, if you want to call it, adjudicated. It was the third victim that bothered me the most. And that was because that poor family never got justice.
Right.
Any sort of justice. There was no closure. There was, and the result of that was the defendant, his younger brother, Kenneth, was sentenced to life in prison. But the original plea deal was that he would testify truthfully, not only in our brother's case, Michael's case, but in Tony Hammett's case. And at the end, he reneged, ostensibly because Ronald Heath threatened to have him killed in prison, and he got scared. And so that poor family, there's nothing truly on the record, in terms of there was no trial. And so therefore, I was afraid that as the years passed and as cases were summarized and presented to the decision makers and to boards, that wouldn't come to light. And that bothered me. And so when we started this process a little over a year ago, trying to get an understanding of what it takes to get a warrant signed and what it takes to get that case on in this case, Governor DeSantis's desk, we started out just wanted to know what that process was. And it was cloaked in secrecy. In the beginning, I was pretty upset. I was upset because what didn't seem to me like they were being forthright. I did a lot of research, did a lot of reading on cases that were where defendants were executed last year, and I came to find out why. And I'm perfectly okay with that. I absolutely agree with the shroud of secrecy and the need for it, because unfortunately, despite 35 years of appeals, 35 years of the case being wound through the judicial process, there are attorneys out there that will do anything to stop a process. And a process that, in this case, and in a lot of cases, it's black and white, period.
And Nancy, what are your feelings about the execution, the lethal injection, finally?
Well, finally, it is happening. Lethal injection. Again, we don't have any control over how it's done. It's state controlled. The electric chair was in use when they were sentenced, which the younger brother, Kenneth Heath, was terrified of, which is why he made the plea deal. So,
well, let me switch your direction a little bit. So, why is it important for your family's going to travel there to see? Correct. To not actually witness it, but to be there.
Oh, no.
We
no,
will
no,
be
no,
witnessing it.
We are official witnesses.
You'll be witnessing.
Yes.
We will be in the witness room.
The viewing room.
The witness room.
Yes. Yeah.
What are your feelings about that?
Well, I obviously never saw, anything like it. Justice served. We've waited a long time. We kind of but felt as a family, mom and dad, they were off the streets. But a group of their peers said, yeah, no, he's evil. He's evil. And there needs to be justice. And death penalty it's a law, so you're found guilty by a, group of your peers.
Was it a tough decision wrestling with you actually being able to go there and witness it?
Seeing and hearing what he did to the other two guys, again, I'll always put in that we know of. Just horrific.
For me, I have zero problem.
Oh yeah, no problem here either.
None.
Yeah.
I have no. I haven't lost a wink of sleep. I mean, I'm serious.
Yep.
I have no problems with it. I have no problems witnessing it.
Not that we're celebrating, the
absolutely.
fact, but it's
the bottom line is this for me. If this crime had occurred in New York State and he was sentenced to life, that's the sentence.
right.
Okay, fine. I can't control that. My goal was a sentence was handed out. What is the purpose of handing out a sentence if it's not going to be carried out? And my thought was, I'm going to do everything I can to influence, along with my family, friends, neighbors, old neighbors, his best friend from high school. I'm going to activate an army of people to say, hey, this is how we feel about this. Now, admittedly, there were some folks who wrote letters on behalf of the case that I think morally and religiously they don't necessarily agree, but they wrote in support of the family and the family's wishes. And so I think that's an important distinction. It's
Mike's life was worth.
right, and I think to that point is without carrying out the sentence that was handed out and pled and appealed for 30 years, my thought is it cheapens the life of the victim. Why have the death penalty if it's not going to be carried out? Again, if he was sentenced to life, he was sentenced to life. In this case, he wasn't. And this isn't a case of, well, gosh, did he really do? Well, I'm not sure if he did it or not.
No, it was
100%. No,
cut and dry.
It is cut and dry.
And we understand that it's not just our family that, the wheels of justice are slow, but we're certainly happy that Tom had a drive to keep the name in front of, the courts down Florida.
And you did. There were letters to the Clemency Board. Tell us about how much you did to make sure this moment happened. And
again, I was I spearheaded it, but it truly was the result and work of a lot of people. I just took it upon myself to really research and figure out who were the decision makers, because there is no manual. I mean, the closest I got was the rules of clemency review, and you read them and okay, well, who does this, who does that, and then again, I just figured out within the governor's office, within the attorney general's office, within several of those agencies, who who actually makes those decisions. I figured out by reading, I probably read easily 50 previous death warrant cases. I read every single one of the appeals of all the ones that were carried out last year. And through that, reading the documents and reading who they were carbon copied to, I figured out who people were. And again, I'm very careful. I don't mention names because I understand the need.
The secrecy.
The secrecy in terms of who is actually doing the work. But it was trying to figure out who the influencers were to the governor. And, you know, much like presidential pardons, they are completely and solely with the president. In this case, in the state of Florida, clemency and clemency review and the signing of a death warrant is solely constitutionally placed with the governor. Mm. And so, but again, you know, the governor doesn't wake up in the morning and decide, who's it going to be today? It's
a process.
It's the people who support the governor's office who present the case and ultimately make the recommendation. That's who I went after.
And we had family, cousins, that Tom put the word out, you know, through email, and they wrote letters. So they felt part of the process of justice, you know. Again, it, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, we were our extended family.
And friends.
And friends, but within our immediate family, we had a pretty large family. We had, you know, 2 sets of cousins that you know, a lot of people, and we're pretty tight. And you know, some people wrote, some people chose not to, which is, you know, perfectly okay with. Right. But it truly was an effort that emanated from a lot of people. Once the letters were written for our participation in what they call the clemency review, it was after that I then wrote a series of, you know, they weren't sent electronically because electronic is easy to delete. Things were sent hard copy, big envelopes. You can't miss them. But effectively what I did is I wrote a blog.
Wow.
And I wrote probably 15 of them and just sent them every single week.
Such dedication, and you must have just, your brother was your motivator, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And it really was a sense of, at the end of the day, if none of this, if you want to call it, worked, if it did not result in the signing of a warrant, I was okay. I can tell you wholeheartedly, I'd have been okay. I just wanted to go to enter this with the mindset that a sentence was handed out. We as a family waited extremely patiently for 35 years. And I said, well, that's didn't get us nowhere, but let's try another. Let's apply some pressure and see if it works. And if it does, fabulous. If it didn't, I'm okay with it.
Right.
But I wasn't going to go down without a fight.
Mom, yeah, it was a fight, and mom is okay with this finally happening. Like Tom said, she would have been okay
if it didn't.
So.
We need to share some reflections of your brother too, because it's been a while since, and you always need to say their names to keep their memories alive. So if you could just, what was he like? And I bet he'd be extremely proud of both of you for what you've done.
Oh yeah, he'd be laughing his butt off at some of these blogs that Tom wrote. You know, we again in the lightheartedness of these, can I say the name? The
Sure.
title? Minutes with Mike, that when Tom would share it, they were always factual, with the side of humor. Mike would have loved it. He would have loved it. Mike was a breath of fresh air when he walked in the room. He made you feel like you were the only one when you were talking with him. He was funny. He was smart. He was, an athlete.
Oh yeah, yeah. No.
Throughout high school, but also in college, at Catawba.
Catawba College in North Carolina.
North Carolina. He was just fun. He was just fun.
And a guy who, and this was probably effectively what happened to him. He was just gregarious. People gravitated to him, and he took people at their word, at their face value, and I think that was leveraged him. That was leveraged against him that night. But he was fun. He was funny, and so to the Minutes with Mike that I produced, there was a lot of humor, but the goal was to simply keep the case simmering. It was hopefully water cooler content, and the number of people that it got sent to weekly, I got to imagine in the office somebody had to have said, "Hey, did you get this week's?"
Yeah. We did.
Version.
Tom, did you send it out yet? Can we get the copy?
The victim's advocate, Michelle Johnson, who I worked with a lot, she couldn't. She looked forward to getting them, and she was instrumental in getting them in front of some people down there. And again, I would sometimes get a text. Where's this week's version?
But that's how you stay strong too.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, at this point, the boo-hooing is over.
Reach for that pen, Tom, that blue pen. So this is one of the ideas. It's the death warrant by the governor is signed in blue Sharpie.
I typically, what I saw, looking at the previous warrants, and the actual warrants are posted on the Florida Supreme Court, I noticed he signed them in blue, and I knew it was a Sharpie. And so the very last Minute with Mike that got sent, I sent the last week of December, and I had custom blue Sharpies made that have the names of the 3 victims and their deaths, dates, and then I had some other really nice pens made, and I sent, let's see, probably between myself, I sent some out to my brothers, I sent some out to some other friends so that they would send them in.
From
so
different
So
parts.
they would be coming from different parts of the country. I sent packages to the other 2 families of those victims, and they sent them in. So the governor's office got swamped with probably about 80 Sharpies and 50 pens. The point was sign a warrant.
But we will not forget.
It says we will not forget.
And you were saying the boo-hooing is now over.
Yeah, for me, I mean, yeah, was it tough to go back and read details and read
Horrific.
Kenny's what do you call it?
His
statement,
victim
his
statement.
statement, and then
Victim statement.
reading all the appeals, and and then during these last 30 days, the motions that have been filed by the defense
For a stay, tried to get a stay.
trying to getting a stay. Yeah, I mean, at some point you should become numb, but it's just okay. It happened. It's that part has been processed. And again, for me, it was let's work on the goal. And if the goal can be influenced, then so be it. And if it, like I said before, if it couldn't, I was okay with that. But I wanted them to hear. And I went into it, I remember telling there is a victims advocate within the executive office of the governor back in February when we asked, tell us the process. I'll get back to you in about 3 weeks. That was 4 months. But in the meantime, I had started doing some research. And I just sent her a email one day and I said, one way or the other, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And whatever participation that is from your office, great. But I am going to figure out what it takes. And so, but I followed it up with, it'll be polite pressure.
Yeah.
And I never jumped up and down like a 2-year-old. Never, essentially got angry. In September, as a matter of fact, I flew down to Tallahassee.
And met with them.
Simply to meet with the victim's advocate. Wasn't going to really accomplish much that I couldn't have accomplished over the phone. I wanted them to see my face. And what I did also is I dropped in on Florida Commission of Offender Review unannounced. Literally just dropped in.
Politely.
And politely, I just said, hey, is so-and-so available? And, well, hang on just a second. And the person came out. And I could tell there was a little, hesitation. And I said, hey, listen, I'm not here other than to say hello. I said, all I want you to know is all the stuff that you've been receiving
Is from
is I'm a face out of a large family. And I just wanted to say hello. That's all. Nothing more. It was literally a 3 to 4 minute exchange.
But just enough.
It was just enough. The next day when I had lunch with the victim's advocate, I go, did you get a phone call? She goes, oh yeah. And I go, what was the reaction? And the victim, Michelle, said, oh, he was really nice.
Perfect.
And so
Yeah.
it was that trip that I also, that was a pivotal trip because I also got in front of the person who receives, within the governor's office, the attorney who receives the
actual file.
from Clemency Review. And it was at that time that he assured me that this case was a priority.
It's exhausting, but again, you're motivated because you saw there's promise in what you were doing. This is so effective.
And
right?
Christy, that's a great word you used, the promise.
Yeah.
That was the most difficult thing in this process. There was, other than the victim's advocate, but she's really a mouthpiece. A great woman, but she's limited.
Very.
Tons of people are limited in what they can reveal. And so, despite all these letters being sent in, as a human being, you yearn for response, right? You yearn for,
Give us something.
just something.
Direction.
And unfortunately, because of the process and the protection of, it all centers around the Florida Sunshine Laws, FOIL, and anything that is sent, communicated, can be requested, and this is what part of the tactic that these attorneys use for these defendants is to bury the system with
Petty.
these requests of records. And the Florida Supreme Court has consistently and summarily swept those aside because that is confidential, period. And so, but again, for the victims, you have to endure not knowing what you're sending. Is it working?
Yeah.
Is the governor even reading them?
Limbo.
Is the Attorney
limbo.
General even reading them? You don't get the feedback. Understandably, though, and again, I fully support that. I really do.
When writing when we first had to write the clemency letters, some of us had a hard time. It took me forever. And the emotions that you thought were
In check.
in check. In check. Boy, they came out again. And you're, for me anyway, crying, at the drop of a hat, like, what the heck's going on? Why am I doing this again? And again, it's just a healing process. So I see this as hopefully we will never see closure. I hate that word. It's not a closure. It's the end of a process. But yeah, some of us, it took longer than we had anticipated on those letters. Again, because you're like, when people asked us when it first happened, some of us could say what happened to them. But the minute somebody asked, well, what was Mike like? That was the hardest. Then, the emotion came in your voice and it's cracking and the same thing happened. So, some of us had easier time.
Yeah.
I also don't like that word closure. I think it's
overused in this situation.
There never really is
Right.
closure ever.
Any death. It's sad enough that our parents have to die, infants have to die, car crash, victims. But when they've let out such evil back out onto the streets, he should have never been let out, ever.
Yeah, and that's that first case, when he murdered Michael Lee Green. Ron was 16 years old, and the violence that was perpetrated on Michael Green is just.
It was horrifying.
I can hardly. Seriously, I can read about it. I can write about it, but to verbalize it, it's tough. That
Catches in the throat.
It does, and because of I'm certain. So that case never went to trial either. There wasn't a trial. He pled, and so I'm certain he pled because in Florida there were just minimum requirements of serving. He had to serve a minimum of a third. He's 16 years old. I'll be out by 27, 28 with modicum of decent behavior. And that's exactly what happened. I read last week for the first time psychological reports and evaluations of him when he was 16 in 1978 and also in 1988, 6 weeks before he was let out. And in it, there was concern about his propensity for violence, his propensity for drug use, his the fact that there wasn't a real plan for upon his release. Oh, I'm going to go live with my grandmother, and I'm gonna. Oh, maybe I'll move up north and live in the mountains. I mean, look, I'm reading this. It's quote. And so that's the other part that's bothersome is, understandably, I'm sure that the parole board was constrained by statutory, regulatory things that, okay, he served a third, he's done fairly well, whatever well is defined as, in his 10 and a half years that he served.
But he also made a name for himself as a tough guy during that time, which is when they got arrested, and both brothers were put in the same prison.
Inexplicably, they were held in the same jail while awaiting trial.
Ronnie sent his thugs and beat his brother up.
Yeah.
Don't talk.
And that's that was part of the problem with the Hammett case. Why Ken reneged and wouldn't testify.
If you had a chance to say something to this evil Ronald Heath, what would you say to him?
Geez, that's a tough one.
I think for me, I would say, you know, whatever you've got left in you is between you and God. But you know, your gig is up.
Yeah.
You know, the smoke and mirrors and your charm, you know, doesn't work anymore. And,
Yeah.
You know, but in terms of, I truly believe that it's his ultimate judgment is before God, and I mean this sincerely. I'm just glad I had a hand in it.
Yeah, you know, you didn't have to kill him. You didn't have to kill him.
Yeah. 100%.
You didn't have to kill him, and so now, you know, you make
poor decisions throughout your whole life have consequences, and this is the consequence. And once again, I go back to, it happened in Florida. That was the sentence.
Yeah.
Carry it out.
Download the WSYR Plus app on your TV to stream News Channel 9 for free. Just go to your smart TV, search WSYR Plus in the App Store, and download to start streaming today.